Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MCP Project Podcast. Today we have our amazing guest, Mr. Chip Hopper, joining us. And for those of you that don't know, Chip Hopper is a storyteller, innovative ghostwriter for many, very broad, I guess I should say, from celebrities to athletes to billionaires. And he kind of just helps share everyone else's story. But what makes ours so special is we get to hear Chip's story. So I'm so excited. So just to kick it off, I would love to hear what got you started, Chip. How did you get started in everything that you're doing now?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I love that this worked out today to make it happen. It's been way too long since we've hung out, so grateful to be here. As far as my story is concerned, is there really any start to your story? You know, we often put this start and middle and an end on a story, but our lives are so much more than that. So it's always interesting to try and put this into words of where my story came from and how it started, because we're constantly moving and evolving, and your story is what you decide to make it. If we're talking about book writing, you know, I've always loved to write. Ever since I was young, I remember writing, even though I struggled to put letters in the right order and things like that. I'm actually very dyslexic,
Oh, wow.
and which is kind of fun for a writer, right?
Yeah, I love it.
But when you look back at life, it's much easier to connect the dots of what got you here than it is when you're looking forward and you're just kind of stumbling through, or just kind of trying to find a path that works. I very much love marketing. I love the human body. I love the mind. I love all these things. And looking back, it's like, oh, of course, of course I should be a storyteller and I should be bringing these things together. But going through it, it was like, well, do I be a doctor? Here I'm going to go in and I'm going to dissect cadavers. Or, hey, do I want to be a marketing professional, which I spent many years as a marketing executive? Or do I want to go in the backcountry of Yellowstone, which I did for several years, right? So it's always this finding things you love and then seeing what parts of them pull you forward and move you forward. For book writing, it was about I was reading a couple books before, you know, of little so I had some authors that had sent me their books, and before they were published, and I said, hey, can I give you some suggestions on these? And both of them said yes. Or I asked them if they were open to suggestions, right?
Uh-huh.
And I ended up rewriting both of those books, and both authors they loved it, and they were like, wow. One of them said, can I pay you for this? And the other said, can I pay you on my next project?
Oh my gosh.
Just kind of became this thing, right? And there's a story before that too, right? Like, I made connections with authors because every time I read a book I loved, I would reach out to the authors. I would actually write them a letter and say, thank you for writing this book. This is how it impacted me and how it changed my life. And they would respond.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It's amazing who will respond to you. We often put ourselves in a box thinking that, oh, this person wouldn't respond or that person wouldn't respond because it's only me, right?
Right. And they probably really appreciated the fact that you wrote that. It wrote them a letter and showed that and told what it had done for you in your life.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, they're screenshotting you, going, look who commented on my post.
I don't know about that, but that would be very flattering. Well, thank you, Chip. That's so cool. So continue on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no interruption at all. So this actually leads into something that I feel is one of the reasons that I'm in this space. And that is, our stories define our lives. The stories that we tell ourselves define the lives that we have. The questions we ask, the better the questions, the better the lives that we lead. Mm-hmm. And going back to your example, right, of this idea that it's an honor for you to have other people comment on you and you take pictures of it, right? What if your story was actually that it was an honor for others to be with you, or that others felt honored to be around you? Not putting you in the space of like, you're so cool, but putting you in a space of like, wow, I am worthy and people want to share their time with me, right?
Yeah.
And I've found so many times in my life that simply changing the story I have in my head changes my reality.
Yes.
I spend most of my life in a position where, and this is something I ask my clients that don't already have fame. I say, when you write a book, what is your goal? Do you want to be Elvis or do you want to be Oz? So do you want to be in front of the curtain or behind the curtain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I spend most of my life intentionally choosing to be Oz and to be behind the curtain. And I'm a ghostwriter, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the
Perfect.
most invisible things you can do is become a ghost.
It's true. Can't
So,
get more invisible than that.
but what happened is my entire life, people would see me, and because of the energy that I was putting out, and my belief is that our energy and everything creates, everything is built on energy.
Mm-hmm.
But people would see me and they would say, you look like this celebrity. You look like this person. My whole life, from when I was young, I looked like Doogie Howser,
Oh my
right?
gosh, that's so funny.
And then when I grew up, I looked like everybody from Jack Black, and I've actually got side by side comparisons on a TikTok that I do of all these people, from Blake Shelton to George Lucas to
Yes,
gosh,
crazy.
Dusty Mall,
I could actually
right?
see this. This is so wild.
And Josh is actually now in a show called Ransom Country or something like that.
Yeah.
And I had multiple people send me a screenshot of the main title screen saying, I didn't know you were back into acting, right?
You're
but
so
what
funny.
happened is, a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling called to be on the other side of the camera, if you will. And I took this mindset of, it's okay to be seen, and it's okay for me to be the one that people want to reach out to. And I grew, one of the ways I grew my network was I would go into rooms and I would help people feel seen. And I still love to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite things. And when they felt seen, they wanted to connect. And my network grew, and I have phone numbers of some of the most significant people that have done the most significant things in the world, right?
Yes.
And you do as well. You have this amazing network of people. But my intention was always, I want them, or I want to get to a point where I can ask them for their number. And a few years ago, I shifted that to, I want it to be something that they want to ask for my number. So it almost became a game to me to go into rooms full of celebrities and athletes and others, and intentionally not ask anyone for their phone number. And I would say, hey, it was great connecting. I'll see you around. And they'd be like, wait, let's switch numbers, because I kind of want to keep in touch.
Oh,
Right.
see, that's cool.
And
I love
it's
that.
just a shift in mindset.
Mhm.
And when I started allowing myself to be seen, I have not been able to go to the airport in the last 3 years since I made just this mental shift without people stopping me in the airport and saying, hey, are you Chip Hopper? I heard you on a podcast, or I saw your post, and again, like my audience, I haven't ever worked on growing my own audience. I've always grown other people's audiences.
Yeah.
So every time, even though I've allowed that and created that story that I'm okay to be seen, I still, in my head, I'm like, how are they finding me? Right? Like,
Right.
I've only got a few thousand followers on Instagram, which is a funny way to phrase it anyway, because a few thousand, like if you had a few thousand people in a room,
That's a
that
lot of people.
would be a big room. I mean, I've filled rooms like that, right?
Yes. That is so cool. I love the mind shift mentality. I think especially with this podcast, it's really about that mental growth, the physical growth and spiritual growth. And I think with you sharing about how to shift your mind, and it's okay to want to be seen. It's not something to, oh, no. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the one that everyone's looking at. Like, I would rather just help the others. And, that's a kind thing. But like you said, a lot of people need someone like Chip to interact with. And you are someone of importance. We all are. We all have a purpose, and we were created on purpose for that. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. It's a great perspective.
Thank you. I have a story of when I was young that I've recently started sharing, and that is that when I was 10, 11, 12, I don't remember exactly how old, I very much could get anything I wanted. I could create around me a space where people would do what I wanted them to do. Whether or not it was beneficial to them, I was living a life of creating what I wanted for me, right?
Mm,
And
yeah,
one day my mom sat me down, and it was kind of a Spider-Man moment. With great power comes great responsibility.
sure.
but but she told me, she said, Chip, you have the ability to get whatever you want, and you're using it in a way that is more or less taking advantage of other people, right? Is manipulating them to do what you want them to do for you.
Hmm.
And and I know she didn't mean it this way, but my takeaway from it was, if I influence others for their own good, then I'm good. If I influence others for my good, then I'm bad. And I spent much of my life being in that space of what I call the nice guy, right?
Yes. Yes.
And nice is not good. Nice is not kind. And they're very, very different. Nice placates, nice tries to create whatever it is the other person is wanting, where kind is loving. Nice has an agenda. Nice is often like doing it to get something, whether it's to get the other person to be pleased, whether it's to get something out of it, or whatever it is. Nice is very different than kind.
Mm,
And I spent my life in that space of niceness without even realizing that it wasn't what I thought it was. I spent 21 years in a marriage trying to be the person that I thought she wanted me to be, right?
mhm.
And I look back at all those heartbeats that I poured into trying to be something for someone else rather than be something for me. And it never works out. Like nobody really wants to be together with someone who is disingenuous, right?
Right.
Someone who's not in integrity with themselves. And I found myself in that space from that, right? I grew into this space of trying to be in integrity with others. I wanted everyone to like me, which meant that if you didn't like me, I was trying to change to fit whatever you wanted for me to like you.
Hmm.
And the interesting truth in that is that we can't control who's going to decide to make us the villain in their story. No matter what you do, there will be people that decide you're the villain in their story.
Yeah,
And
that's so
and that can
true.
be hard.
It is hard. I can really appreciate what you're saying because being somebody who, was a people pleaser for a long time. I mean, I really truly wanted to please people and I put myself on the back burner in order to do that and I would change to fit their agenda. I would want to make sure that they were happy and at what cost, and then now it's a lot different, but I think, wisdom comes with time and you learn so much the longer you're able to be gifted life. And I definitely can appreciate what you were just sharing and
Yeah.
coming from it myself.
I I love the way that you say gifted life, right? Because I truly do look at our lives as a gift, and I love the quote that says the past is history, the future is a mystery, and the only thing is today. I can't even remember the exact thing, but
Yeah.
right, today is the present. That's why, or today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Yep.
Uh, I just totally butchered that, but
No, that you said it.
but but someone can go and look that up. But it is, and what I've done in my life is I have started to measure my life in terms of heartbeats. Where am I spending my heartbeats? And I found that much of my life, I was spending my current heartbeats in hopes of future heartbeats that never happened.
Mm,
So what I would do is I was like, I want to make enough money that I can travel with my kids. So I'm going to work 80 hours right now so that I can be with my kids. And that becomes this cycle of always working 80 hours. And
yeah.
all of a sudden, your kids are grown and they've got their own lives that they're building. And so it's like all of these heartbeats that I was investing in a future instead of investing in the present. And so it's become very, very significant to me of how and where and who I spend my heartbeats with.
I love that. We had a guest on who talks about practicing death daily and not practicing like, in the way that it sounds to most people, but in the sense of when you wake up, you realize that you are going to die. We all are. And if you take the mentality of knowing that this is not forever, that this is a gift, it's a short but long gift. There's seasons where life seems very long, and then there's the shorter seasons. But either way, if you practice that you're not here forever and you understand that and really thoroughly understand that, it changes how you view things and how you handle things for yourself. It is your time. This is our time, and it's how we want to live it. And a lot of the time passes where we don't recognize that. Especially when you're young, you feel like you could live forever. You like nothing's going to happen. You're invincible. And then you start to...
I still like to lean into that.
I like that though too. I mean, I still think you should take chances, and I want to hear that too. I just think having the mentality of understanding, then you really actually learn what true appreciation is, and then you live out of that space, and you start to see things in such a better place than what you would in your circumstances, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I haven't done the math, and I'm not going to do the math on the fly here. So no one, well, you can write in whatever you want. If somebody wants to write in, that's not actually that number. This is how the math works. But I think it's something like you have like 4,000 weekends in your life.
Yeah.
And when you start to think of it that way, you're like, wow, what am I like? Did I just sit home and scroll all weekend on social media, right? And we often talk about like midlife, and we talk about these midlife crises, and people often are talking about that when they're like 45, even 50 years old, right?
Right.
But the thing is, the average lifespan, especially for a man, is like 74 years, which means that your midlife is 37.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, 37, right? Like I was just getting started at 37.
Isn't that crazy?
I still feel like I'm just getting started.
Which you are. It's just, it's so funny that you say that, because I just shared a post that said, if someone dies at the age 30, you're considered young. You died young. But if you're starting out your career, or I forget the other part of it, but at the same age, you're considered old. And so it's really just a perception. Like 30 is young if you die, but then, it's considered old when you celebrate your 30th birthday. You're now graduated from your 20s. And it's so funny how we do that to ourselves. We do that. Like,
we do it.
I know.
It's the story we tell ourselves, right?
It's so true. And you do live your character. Like whatever you are believing and seeing and all of that, that is what you're living.
Yeah, they did. And again, I don't have the details on the specific study, but there was a study they did where they took a group of people that were, I believe they were in their 60s and 70s, and they put them in a space where they put up pictures on the wall that were from when they were young. They surrounded them in this space of feeling like they were living the life that they did when they were 20, 25 years old. And all of them got younger. Like all of their metrics, everything got younger just from changing their environment and the way that they were looking at their life.
I believe that. My grandmother is 91 years old, and she's been my best friend my entire life. She was 50 when I was born. She literally lives like she's still 21, and she survived breast cancer twice. The first time she was diagnosed, had a mastectomy, and then she was diagnosed again 17 years later and survived it. And she still comes out with the big hats and the glasses, and she's like in this Audrey Hepburn stage, and she's just living life. And I look at her and I'm like, you are so young because you believe that she still believes like she's 21 or 30 or, and she just lives like that. And it's so awesome to see. I feel very fortunate to have that as an example of somebody who's so much older than I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like that's an easy place to be like, what, cancer again? Why me?
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
and instead it's like leaned into like I'm going to live. One of the things that I often do, well, always people tell me about this all the time, but if you ask me how I'm doing, my answer is I'm doing amazing,
Mhm.
or I'm doing incredible, or I'm doing fantastic. And the thing about that is that there are two ways you can look at that, because obviously not everything in my life is fantastic. Not everything is amazing. So it becomes, well, is that where you're focusing, or are you trying to like cover up the way you're really feeling? And I think it's very easy for people that are not in a space where they feel good to say, when someone asks you how are you doing, they're going to say, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm whatever, right? They're
Mhm.
going to not really tell you how they're feeling.
Right.
But for me, that's not what it is. I truly, like, I wake up in the morning, and even if my joints are hurting, even if I have people that don't like me, even if I have, my loved ones that I haven't seen in forever, um, I'm still like in complete gratitude to be on this side of dirt today, right?
Yeah.
To be alive, to be there. And so when people ask me how I'm doing, and I say, I'm doing amazing, genuinely, like that is where my mind is, that's where my gratitude is, even if there are things in my life that are just coming at me from every direction. Um, it's not that I'm ignoring those things. In fact, I believe we should embrace every emotion, we should embrace every feeling. But when I feel sadness, I also feel gratitude, because that's something we can feel, right? So there's still like the ability to step in and feel every moment that we have, but it's like going in the rain. You can walk into the rain and be like, I love every drop that I'm feeling. Or you can walk into the rain and be like, this is going to ruin my hair,
Yeah.
ruin my shirt. I just can't wait to get out of this, right?
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's all your perception, and it's the same thing of I posted something a little while ago, just saying, and I actually carried it on into this, but you could be stuck in traffic, and you have two people in the car experiencing the same traffic, and one is so miserable because they're going to be late. They're just freaking out about the time that they have to spend in the car, and there's nothing they can do about it. And the other one is like, I'm going to turn on a podcast and use this time to learn and grow. And this isn't so bad. And
Yeah.
it's really just the perception. And the mind is so powerful. You think about all the things we have accomplished, everything that we are doing, the clothes we put on is somebody's creation, and it's somebody's idea. And if you think about that, we are living in somebody's previous idea or creation. If you really grasp that, you can live that. You can be the creator you want to be. There's no limit. And so it's pretty fascinating.
I love that you bring up the creator aspect, because I very much live in the space that we are our own creators. And, your example and my examples, like I have been on both sides of that. I have absolutely been out in the rain and been hating it. I've been out in the rain and been loving it. I've been in traffic and been like, this is a great time to listen to a book. And I've also been like, son of a,
Yeah, me too.
right?
Yes.
But I think what too often people forget is that when they get in the car and they have that moment of this is awful, a lot of us, especially those who have studied some of this, will be like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. And they create guilt or shame or just unkind feelings towards themselves for having these feelings.
Mhm.
When instead, embrace that feeling. If you're feeling awful in the car because you're going to be late, I lean into that. I'm like, okay, what is making me feel this way? Right? Is that really what I want to feel? Is this true? Is it really true? Which are some of my favorite questions, right? Every belief is it true? Is it really true? And is this belief serving me?
Oh, I
Right?
like that. Yeah.
And when you can lean into those beliefs, you can start to really shift without forcing yourself to shift. Like jealousy is one of my favorite topics to speak on, right?
Hmm.
Because there is nothing about jealousy that isn't self-centric, right? Like
True.
you if someone is doing something else and you feel jealous, it's because of something you're not receiving, or it's very focused on yourself. And that's not bad. It just is. And so if you can say, wow, I'm seeing this, it's making me feel this. Is this truly what I want? Right? Like, especially with someone you love. Like, if you see
Right.
someone you love doing something that they are loving, but it makes you jealous, you're like, wow, am I really loving that person? Or is this whole relationship thing about me?
It's true. That's such a great way to explain that because it's very self centered. I mean, it is like in the sense of you are missing something and you see somebody else achieving that, you start to talk down to yourself, get mad, don't want to be around that person probably because they're doing so well and you're still not there or where you want to be. So you reflect, and it really is just having those questions and those conversations with yourself is so important.
Yeah. I often, or I've had people tell me before, like they reject negativity, or they want to always ride in like this high vibe space. And for me, I'm like, that's a great intention, but when feelings hit you, what are you doing with those feelings?
Hmm.
Are you putting them in the closet and saying, nope, I'm only riding high? Or are you taking that feeling and going for the ride with it and seeing where it takes you? I found that it is possible to live at a very high vibration, to be in constant gratitude, and still like live every emotion that you get,
Hmm.
right? So it's like you're up there, and then all of a sudden you take this roller coaster down to the bottom,
Hmm.
you explore it, and then you come back up, right? And if you try and stay up, you don't connect with yourself,
Yeah.
right? It is the highs and lows that bring joy into our lives.
Yeah.
One of the things that my son and I have built around, and I want to, like, there's so many books I want to write, right? But one of the books is called Wowed Out, right? Because when you get into a situation of wow, like if that wow continues to happen, it loses its wowness,
Hmm.
right? My son and we like to go on midnight walks every night. He's been homeschooled for years, and we're both night owls. And so we'll take the dogs out at midnight. And we were out in this amazing storm where we were in the eye of the storm, and it wasn't raining on us, but it was raining and lightning in every direction. And we could see it across
Wow.
the mountains. And with where you live, where I live, we have these amazing mountain ranges, right?
Yes.
And there were just like these lightning strikes, like some that I've never seen before. They were just wow. And we were walking, and everyone that hit, we're like, wow, wow.
Yeah.
But after about 10 minutes, I stopped saying wow. And a few minutes later, my son was like, Dad, I haven't heard you say wow about any of the lightning strikes that have happened. And I was like, wow, yeah, I guess I'm wowed out, right? Like it became natural for me, which is one of our greatest strengths, but also one of the
Mhm.
things that I think holds us back is our ability to adapt to
Yep.
our situation. Right?
Absolutely. And that just brings to mind for me the failure and success aspect. Without failing, you wouldn't know what success is. And you can experience so much success that you're just on this other level. But if you never hit another hardship, which is inevitable, you wouldn't know what that feeling is again of because you're living it. Like it kind of lost its luster. And so I think it's just incredible way to, wow out on things. It's very similar to that, I think. But
Yeah. Right.
that is so cool. So tell us, are you currently writing a book for yourself, or what's going on with Chip right now?
Wow, way to bring it into the questions there.
Speaking of being wowed.
Yeah. So I am deep in writing books for other people. I've got more books that I'm writing right now than I ever have. Even with AI that people are speaking about all the time, of it taking away jobs or doing this or that. Like, I am in AI every day, and trust me, it's not able to do what I can do. And I say yet, right?
Right.
Because I do think that it's going to be able to do those things, but there is so much opportunity out there. And I have a list of clients that want me to do their books. And I love doing books for people, but I have realized that one of the things that it's doing is it's keeping me from some of my own books.
Yeah.
And so I am trying to lean with intention into actually getting out some of my own books. I have some pretty exciting things that, or at least to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a nerd, but but I've done some things where I've like learned at a level that most people don't get the opportunity to. I mean, my job is that I get to sit with greatness and hear their story, and I have to learn what they did well enough that I can write it for them as if I'm them,
I love
right?
that.
And when I work with the biggest names in the world doing that, it is every day I'm in a story with a master teacher of something that I'm able to learn. And
Wow.
with that perspective, I'm able to like really pull things that I don't think most people have an opportunity to even have all those things in their space at the same time. So I do want to get some of those things out on paper,
Yeah.
mostly for the journey, right?
Mhm.
The whole premise of BookJedi is it's an acronym for the journey of evolution, disruption, and impact that you get from writing and reading.
Mhm.
I believe everyone should write their book of their story. Should write their story. Everyone should. Now, does that mean every story should be read? No, probably not. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the value is what it creates for you. And I've never worked with a client that hasn't gone on a significant journey by writing their book. And the thing is, like, we are all human. We all have these experiences, and telling your story is going to help you, regardless of whether or not it helps anyone else.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. Nobody cares about you more than you. So, your story and everything you're doing in your life to accomplish things and grow and become something or whatever that is, that matters most to you because you are the most special person in your life. And so I love that. I do think people should write down or even journaling or something that they can keep for themselves. And it's part of that leaving a legacy too. When you're gone, you're no longer here, which is inevitable. The story you leave behind is what's going to carry on. And what do you want that to look like? And do you want somebody to find your book and read your book? And I think that's so cool. I do have a question. Do you write children's books? Or is
I've written everything from children's books to, I again, most of what I do is in the personal development space.
Sure.
So to how can you become better, whether it's, about your brain, whether it's about like AI or whatever is going to shift your world. But I also do fantasy and science fiction and fiction. I'm writing a book right now that is super exciting. It's like a thriller that's kind of got a Wolf of Wall Street, The Firm type of feel.
Ooh.
But yeah, so I do a lot of these things. I love children's books. I think are beautiful because if we can instill in our children some of the things that we didn't learn till we were older, then we might not have to fix or they might not have to fix as much when they get older.
Right. They wouldn't have to learn so many hard lessons. They've kind of been taught through stories of like, oh, you don't do that, or you do it this way, or this is how you can handle this situation. And when you're a child, there's no limit. Like everything, you just absorb. And so that's one reason I love children's books so much. Is just you're able to help really broaden the mind and help them grow and understanding hard things, but at that level, which is awesome.
I
That's
mean,
so
I,
cool.
I can look back at my life and I can remember times in my mid 30s where I had very fixed mindsets on certain things. And like, I'll look at those points and I'll be like, wow, I can't believe that I ever thought that or said that. Uh, and I look at my son who is fortunate enough to be around me, is fortunate enough to be around my clients. And he's 15 now. And the way that he understands communication, the way that he understands so many things that I didn't have at his age, it's beautiful. And that's probably one of my favorite things about what I do is that my kids get to be around greatness all the time and realize that greatness is just a choice.
Yep. I love that. That is so, it is, it's so incredible and so wonderful that your kids get to experience that right there along with dad. I mean, that's really, really special. I really truly appreciate everything you're sharing. So you're planning to write, you have a lot of projects going on right now. So what does a day in the life of Chip look like right now?
Well, I would love to say that my days are a little more structured than they are,
It's
but there's not a huge structure to my days. And every year I have a word of the year, and this year my word of the year is focus, because one of the beliefs that I have is that opportunities come to me and are all around me always, right? I am surrounded by abundance. And in having that belief, it has become reality. And every day I have these amazing opportunities to do amazing things. And yet, if I try and focus on all of them, I end up not moving any of them forward.
Yeah.
So I really have been spending the year to this point and had the intention with this year of finding what resonates for me, what resonates for my heart right now. And really leaning into those things. I've actually built this a graph that I built when I was in corporate that I've now incorporated into my personal life, which puts things on a matrix of how long is it going to take to happen, how much impact or money or whatever thing that I could receive from it would I get, and what is going to be the risk level of doing that, right? And so I'm able to put the opportunities that I have in front of me kind of in this space of measuring them against each other to go, where does my heart really take me? And being able to really lean into a space of intuition, which we could get into at depth on my thoughts on intuition. But a regular day for me is usually includes some level of writing. It usually includes some level of an event. I host a number of events. I run an event just for fun that I call my Jedi Friends dinners. And I just like to bring greatness into a room. There's no agenda. I get sponsors to bring in the food. I get sponsors to host the place. I don't charge people to come. And I just invite the coolest people I know and invite them to invite the coolest people they know. And we have these amazing conversations. And I have people come up to me after all the time saying, this is one of the most impactful events that I've ever attended. And they look and they're like, this is so great. And I'm like, look, all I've done is create a space. And there's so much about being a leader. There's so much about being kind. There's so much about all of these attributes that are about creating space for others to grow and to be in fertile soil.
It's so great. It's wonderful that you do that too, because you're able to show people that it's not a lot of effort just to have people invite some really cool people. You invite some cool people to all just hang out. And it's really just wanting to do it. And I think, you create this space because you want to. You want people to come together. You want people to win. And so you're like, how can I get everyone together? Somebody will vibe with somebody and, they'll go from there. And that feels so good. There's no greater feeling than giving. I love that you do that. I
I
was going to
agree.
ask you, who's your favorite client that you like? But I don't know if you can say names or anything, but I think it's so fun. Or what's one of the few best books you've, ghostwritten for, or if you can share.
So most of the books that I've ghostwritten are under NDA, and I
Oh,
can't speak about them. But which has been an interesting piece of this coming out from the being in the ghost to trying to step into myself
yeah.
and have huge parts of my life that I can't talk about. Right,
Yeah.
a good book takes 6 to 8 months or even longer to write well, and so I have these big spaces in my life where my entire focus was on building something for someone else that all it was for me was a paycheck, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy.
but I do have some fun experiences, right? Like I've been able to create great friendships with some amazing people. Um, One of the humans that I really admire is Stephen Kotler. He's written a number of best-selling books, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to help him on some.
Wow.
And he's done Stealing Fire, The Rise of Superman, The Art of Impossible, Bold, Abundance. You know,
Wow.
so many just amazing books, and he has this brilliant mind that he's crafted a space where he wakes up at a certain time and he begins to write, and he's got this disciplined structure that I just admire, and he's become, to me, one of the best writers I've ever worked with. Right, my approach is still like, when do I write? Well, I write when it starts to download. So,
Yeah.
I'll be doing the dishes or I'll be doing something else, and I'll get a few words and I'll be like, ooh, I should write those words down. And then I'll go back to what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my, a couple sentences are coming. And then I'm like, where's the cup? Okay, I gotta get
Yeah.
like coming in the flow, right? And so that's, my flow is that I go when the flow comes to me. And Stephen, who teaches on flow, is able to create flow wherever he is and whatever he's doing, which I've always admired.
So
Um,
cool.
and then, I like, there are the fun stories, like singing on stage with Coolio and becoming friends with him.
That's
And
so funny.
I spent one afternoon he plugged in his phone into my truck while we were driving around. And for 2 hours, we listened to music that he hadn't released, and now will never release unless his estate decides to do something with it. But with him describing and talking through why he wrote the songs that he did and where he was trying to move the world with it. And for me, that is what life is made of, is connection and experience. And I love to help people step into their greatest life, right?
Yeah.
And I run events around the world helping people tell their stories. And the main reason I do it is because I see how it changes them, right?
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Oh my
and it changes
gosh.
me. It changes me.
Yeah. It does. I could only imagine. I mean, I similar in that space of just, just being able to see what you're able to put together for others to win and what that does for you, and like helping someone else. It's really kind of, it's funny. I say it's a little selfish of me. I'm selfish that way because I love to give and serve people. And it, because of how it makes me feel, on the outside, it looks so good and it's so impactful for that person. But what it's doing for me is so wonderful and good. And I love that feeling that I'll never change. It's
And
beautiful.
that feeling to me goes back to what you said a little bit earlier about being the creator in yourself and in your life. I think that we as creators genuinely feel that lift when we lift.
Hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I love that. I've had people come up to me before and they're like, you know what? I see things before they happen, and I'm a great seer of the future. And I said, what if we shifted that to be, you're a great manifester of the future? Because they were living in a space, or they often are living in a space of they don't have control of their life. They can just see what's coming, rather than saying, I am the creator of my life and I'm going to create what's coming. And to the level of, and Joe Dispenza talks about this, of being grateful for what you will have, right?
Yeah.
Which is so powerful. I've done a gratitude practice for as long as I can remember. And I remember when I first understood the concept of being grateful for things that I didn't yet have, I was like, it blew my mind. Right?
Yeah, no
Like I
kidding.
would sit every day and I'm like, I'm grateful for this that I have, this that I have, this that I have, this that I have. But I was never like, I'm grateful for what is coming. I'm grateful for what's in the energy that is going to be with me, right?
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. I think people, if they could just not only be grateful for this moment and what they're working on, but also being grateful for receiving what they're working on. Like it's already yours. It was implanted in you. You're doing everything you can to get to that level of whatever that is. So just be grateful that it's happening. Like be grateful for what's to come because you're creating it. And I love that. That's so good. Oh, Chip, so go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say the phrase that I love is, and so it is, right? Because we can create now what we want now, right? Sure, there are things that take time to develop, experiences to layer and things like that. But you can step into being that now. You can decide what you're being right now. And that is such a powerful tool.
That is so powerful. It's very true. Some things can take 5, 10, 20 years before you actually see what you've envisioned for yourself in the moment 20 years ago. But you're on that path. And then when it actually happens, you're like, oh my gosh. And the journey in between where you have people rooting for you at the beginning of your journey and they have you cheering for you at the end. But the in-between is where it's a lot of isolation and a lot of self-talk and a lot of prayer and a lot of things that you're just like, I have to keep going. I have to keep believing because if I don't, it's not going to happen. And you're alone. There's not many people choosing to root for you unless they're really super close to you. So in those moments is the most growth that you could possibly have.
And even those that are most close to you, in fact, often those that are most close to you are the ones that will try and talk you out of your dreams.
Oh, for sure, because they don't understand. And that's a great point too. You know, I've probably had one person who's literally been by my side and has believed in me from the get-go. But out of all the people that
aside from me?
Well, since I met you, I know it's been wonderful. You've been an amazing friend and I'm so grateful for you. But in that journey of, you know, stepping away from what I knew, very successful at it, people couldn't understand why I was walking away from that, but I had already felt that I served my purpose in that and it wasn't bringing me what I needed to step out into more. But, you know, you're alone. You've got to make the decision. Are you going to do this? Are you going to make this happen? Because you're going to be, it's all on you. And everything in life it's on you. And that's why I like to share, you know, if you know that you have everything you need to succeed, nothing will stop you. And you have everything you need to succeed because you have you. There's people with no legs. We've seen even at Greg's events and things like that, people with no arms, people with major disabilities that are out there living a life that's so much that others could only dream of. And all they did was know that they had everything they needed. They had themselves and God. But, you know, they had this place of belief in creating and they didn't let their disability or anything hold them back. So, you know, if they can do that, and when I've met some incredible people, you being one of them, but, you know, realizing they're just people who are living out their dream. They're living out what they want to live and create. And they're no different than me. We all start on an equal playing field. It's just however, some climbs are harder than others, but you just got to stick to it. So you're getting me all fired up, Chip. I think I can just stay here and talk all day. Although the team back here would kill me probably. Like
it doesn't take a lot to get you fired up because you're amazing, right? Like I genuinely, every time I see you, I am amazed by you. One point that I was going to add to what you just said is that because one of the questions you asked is if I could go back to like in the pre-questions, right? Like I
Yeah,
glanced through those. I don't think we hit on many of them, but
that's okay.
I did see one of them that came through, which was if you could go back and tell your younger self anything, what would you tell them?
Hmm.
And I think when you are truly living into your life, you will get to a point where you wouldn't go back and tell them anything,
Yes.
because everything that you have been up to this point has made you who you are, right? And I think one of the most powerful ways to look at that is when you look at like a Marvel or a DC movie and you look at the characters in these, villains and superheroes have the same backstories. It's how they choose to respond.
Yes. That is so good. Well, I am so happy that you came on. I really meant it in my message this morning. Like it was just meant to be for you to be on today. And what a gift we have. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap our time up today?
The thing that is coming to me is don't wait, and don't do it for someone else. Do it for you. Um, there will always be people that don't resonate with you. And I have come to believe that it is impossible to create greatness in neutrality, which means that if you're going to make a difference, you're going to have people that polarize to you and people that move away from you. So do what resonates with you, and you will find your tribe.
Yes. Aw. Thank you, Chip. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for this whole moment. I will cherish it forever. It was so good. And before we end things, I just wanted to see if you wouldn't mind plugging where people can find you. How can they get a hold of Chip? And, maybe you'll be writing their book too.
No,
Not to add
no,
more to your plate, but
I love that question. And I'm fortunate to have a very unique name,
Yes.
Chip Hopper. So you can find me just about anywhere, chiphopper.com. I'm Chip Hopper on most social platforms. If you Google Chip Hopper, you find me and you find those bins that you put wood chips in. Those are
That's
the things
so
that come up.
funny.
Those are the things that come up with Chip Hopper.
That's so good. I love that. Well, it's definitely not, that's unforgettable. Well, you guys heard it. You guys can plug in, connect with Chip Hopper, chiphopper.com, Chip Hopper on all platforms. And Chip, thank you so much. I hope to have you on again soon and have you actually in the studio next time. That would be great.
I would be honored. Yeah, anytime I can spend time with you is amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Trip. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch after this for sure, but I hope you have a great rest of your day and thank you for being here.